When I found Marietta, I didn't just find a place to go to college. I found so much more than that.
I found friends. I found sports.
I found my passion.
I found family.
I found my calling. I found a place to call home. Discover what you can find at Marietta by visiting marietta.edu today.
Coming up today on NewsCenter 15, a killer crash,
and slippery runways.
We'll have these stories and more. NewsCenter 15 starts now. Good afternoon, and welcome to NewsCenter 15. I'm Jared Ruffin.
And I'm Anthony Herman.
Topping our news this afternoon. 2 people died Sunday in New Jersey after their speeding car lost control and launched off the embankment and flew into the second story of a building. The car, a red Porsche Boxster convertible, was traveling at a high rate of speed when it hit the median and eventually crash-landed on the second-story office. The car was driven by Braden DeMartin, 22. DeMartin and his passenger, 23-year-old Daniel Foley, were pronounced dead at the scene and believed to have been the only occupants of the vehicle.
And an American Eagle flight slid off the runway Monday morning at Chicago O'Hare International Airport as snowy conditions and blustery winds led to hundreds of flight cancellations at city's major airports. All 38 passengers and 3 crew members were deplaned from the aircraft. At the time of the incident, there was light snow with visibility of less than a mile and wind gusts up to 30 miles per hour. The National Weather Service has issued winter weather advisory for all parts of Chicago.
So what's the weather out there today?
Here to provide the first look at the weather is Landon Santini.
Well, you know, it's definitely cold outside, not nearly as cold as Chicago, but we've gotten a good snowfall last night, and some of it's still sticking around. Right now, it feels like 18 degrees, and we're going to have relatively cloudy conditions today with an expected high of 31. The UV index is rather low. That's to be expected with the amount of wintry precipitation we've gotten lately. The winds will be running about the west-northwest at 11 miles per hour. The humidity is about 77% outside, again, because of the abundance of precipitation we had. And we're going to be having a relatively, probably the earliest sunset we've had all year with a sunset of 5:13. You saw earlier that the pollen count is pretty low, again, washed out by the snow. So you won't have to worry about any sneezing because of that, except maybe if you're outside in the cold for too long, in which case it's a cold is why you're sneezing. Now, we're going to have a pretty cold start to the week. We have had a pretty cold start to the week already, but it's going to be warming up a little bit as we get closer and closer to the weekend. But we'll talk more about that in more detail when I come back later on for the 5-day forecast. So until then, back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Landon. And a gymnast at Southern Connecticut State University died Sunday after sustaining an injury while training last Friday. Melanie Coleman fell during a routine training exercise on the uneven bars. Jay Moran stated, "At the time, our thoughts and prayers are with Melanie's family. This has been devastating to her coaches and teammates, and we hope to support them in this very difficult time." Coleman's longtime personal coach, Thomas Alberti, called the incident a complete accident. Monday also stating it's not just something that anybody can process.
Climate change means melting ice and habitat loss for animals in the Arctic. but there's an invisible side effect of warming temperatures and rising tides, and it's killing key marine species. Phocine Dempster virus, also called as PDV, was first identified in European harbor seals, killing thousands in 1988. It reemerged in 2004, but this time in northern sea otters in Alaska. Tracy Goldstein, Associate Director of One Health Institute, stated, "Animal health and human health and environmental health are also linked. If one deteriorates, the rest do too."
Coming up, a cold case gets solved, a restaurant tragedy, and more.
We'll be right back after this.
I never chew tobacco.
I don't drink much.
Never smoked a cigarette in my life.
HPV. Isn't that about cervical cancer?
What does that have to do with oral cancer?
HPV? Didn't know that.
Hey, Major, did you get your flu vaccine yet? Make that your mission for today.
Did you say mission? Let's do this. With the flu season coming up, we all have to help protect ourselves by getting the flu vaccine. And if you're over 65 like me, you gotta even be more careful. Look out! Our immune system may not be as strong as it used to be, so we have to do everything we can to keep the flu from catching up with us. Educating yourself about your flu vaccine options is important. It's also really easy. So ask about your vaccine options, because if you're a tough guy like me, you may need a tough vaccine. The flu can aggravate other conditions, so make it your mission to get the right flu shot for your age.
Lee, is that you? Did you complete your mission?
Oh, you mean the flu shot? No sweat. Visit the National Council on Aging at ncoa.org/flu to learn more about vaccine options for people 65 and older.
The body of a woman who was murdered in 1999 has finally been identified, and her killer has been charged. 23-year-old Peggy Lynn Johnson's body was found in a Racine County cornfield with burns, blunt force trauma, and several other ailments that show signs of continuous abuse. Her body was unidentified until last Friday. 64-year-old Linda LaRoche has been charged with her death.
Nevada is launching a review of the status of a rare desert wildflower discovered in the Silver Peak Range in 1985 that isn't known to exist anywhere else in the world. The Center for Biological Diversity also has filed an emergency petition with the U.S. Fish and Wildfire Service to list the flower as an endangered species. The flower hasn't faced significant threats in the past, but that's changed with new interest in mining exploration for lithium deposits in the area.
Tennessee man Marcus Malone was found guilty Friday of second-degree murder in the fatal shooting of 16-year-old Elena Tello of Horn Lake, Mississippi. Malone fired into a group of teenagers at a Zodiac Park in Memphis during a fight on November 1, 2016. Tello was shot in the back of her neck, and 4 others were wounded. Malone was also convicted of 5 counts of attempted second-degree murder, 12 counts of aggravated assault, and other charges.
A chemical mixture in a Burlington Buffalo Wild Wings killed 1 employee. Massachusetts authorities have identified the Buffalo Wild Wings employee who died after breathing in fumes from a powerful cleaning agent at the restaurant. 32-year-old Ryan Baldria, the general manager, was overcome by the fumes and died after being rushed to the local hospital Thursday night. At least at least people were hospitalized.
Coming up next, tangled deer veggies and a little boy falls.
We'll also get the latest news from Hollywood.
And what can we expect from our weather? I'll be with you for a look at our 5-day forecast after the break. Stay with us.
Where are we?
We are at Marietta College.
This is where we live, at Marietta College.
A group of Good Samaritans in Michigan worked together this weekend to free 2 bucks whose antlers were tangled together. The group found the deer in a farm field and followed them into the woods where the deer fell into a creek. One of the men used a tree limb to separate the antlers. The bucks escaped back into the woods, and the group kept the sawed-off antlers as a trophy.
Hate heart-healthy veggies? A study says it could be genetic. If you refuse to eat certain veggies, you might be what scientists call a super taster. Super tasters are people with extreme sensitivity to bitter foods, such as veggies like broccoli, cauliflower, and cabbage. People with the bitter gene are 2.6 times more likely to eat fewer vegetables than people who do not have that gene. The research was presented at the annual meeting of the American Heart Association on Monday.
A 7-year-old boy is fighting for his life after falling out of a 9th-story window of a Bronx apartment building on Saturday. According to the police, the boy, who was autistic, pushed the paneling next to an air conditioning unit out of the way, which caused him to fall through the window in his bedroom. He was taken to a hospital in critical condition. A family friend said the child suffered broken bones and bleeding in his brain. His mother was in the apartment at the time of the incident. The Administration for Child Services is now part of the investigation. For the first look, a settlement for a filmmaker and a surprising box office disappointment.
Here's Cooper with a look at the Hollywood Minute.
Well, thank you, guys. Here's a first look at Soul, the 21st Disney Pixar movie, and the first with a black lead. Jamie Foxx voices a school band teacher who dreams of musical greatness until he falls down a manhole and winds up as just a soul. Get ready for questions on the meaning of life and what it means to have a soul when Soul opens next June. Woody Allen and Amazon have settled his breach of contract lawsuit. The filmmaker claimed the studio backed out of a 4-picture deal as the Me Too movement gained momentum over allegations which Allen's molested his daughter, Dylan Furrow, when she was a child more than 25 years ago. Allen has long denied the charge and has faced no criminal charges related to the claim. Allen sued Amazon for $68 million. Neither side has revealed details of the settlement. A $200 million flop? That's roughly how much Terminator Dark Fate has made worldwide so far. That sounds like a lot, but some experts say the big budget action picture needs to gross about $450 million to break even, meaning the studio behind it could be looking at a $100 million loss. Talk about a dark fate. In Hollywood, I'm Cooper Holmes. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Cooper. And now it's time to check back in with Landon on a special extended forecast.
What do you have for us, Landon?
Well, aside from the dark fate of the Terminator and the early darkness we're going to be experiencing thanks to the increasingly early sunsets, we're going to be experiencing not really darkness, but colder temperatures in, I guess it's kind of dark in that sense. If the snow outside is any indication, I think some of it's melting. We're having a pretty cold first half of the week. As you can see here on our country map, a good chunk of we have a bit of a cold front coming up the northwest of us, coming up from some of the southern states. Now, first of all, we're going to continue getting a cold front for the first half of the week until about Thursday. A good chunk of this down here is some of the some of the cloud coverage that we're going to be getting over the next several days. That's going to lead to not a slight warm front, not really a major one, but it is going to be a noticeable warm front as we get into the weekend. As we take a look at that and our extended weather forecast, tomorrow on Wednesday, it's still going to be cold with an expected high of 34, a low of 14, partly sunny conditions. And then a lot of those sunny and cloudy conditions we're going to be experiencing throughout this week as well, with a high of 46 and a low of 23 on Thursday. Then as we start the weekend, that slight warm-up is going to occur with a high of 46, a low of 23. Continuing on into the weekend on Saturday, expected high of 45, a low of 26 with sunny conditions. And then rounding off the end of the weekend on Sunday with an expected high of 51, low of 33, and partly sunny conditions. The highest it's going to be in terms of temperatures this upcoming weekend. So yeah, fall is definitely here, and now that we've gotten our first snowfall of the year in which it's stuck to the ground, we know that winter is getting ever so closer as the stores have gotten a head start on the holiday shopping season. But I'll give you a brief recap of when we'll talk a little bit about what that could potentially mean going forward when I come back at the tail end of the program. So until then, back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Landon. And when we come back, Roscoe Hatch will have our final look from the world of sports.
Stay with us.
Cancer may be tough, but we are tougher. We are the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Our game-changing research has led to the belief that the cures for cancer are in our blood. We are the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. Beating cancer is in our blood.
I think it goes around.
Come on, buddy.
I'm here for you.
Oh, it's gonna be great. Look, look.
Why is it so hard?
Let's go. We gotta get you in practice.
I read it. Look, and it's set.
And now we're back with a look from Roscoe Hatch at the world of sports.
There seems to be a lot going on around the MLB right now. Is that right, Roscoe?
Yeah, baseball is kind of crazy. It was kind of crazy last week, but this week I think football has a lot to do with the sports world. Kind of like Patrick Mahomes coming back this week. He will start for the Kansas City Chiefs against the Tennessee Titans on Sunday, just over 2 weeks after the quarterback's season was jeopardized by a dislocated kneecap. Mahomes never missed a practice after hurting his knee on Thursday night against Denver. It turned out there was no structural damage, and it became a waiting game to see when Mahomes would take the field. He practiced on a limited basis the first week before being ruled out against Green Bay. He was limited again last week before being inactive against Minnesota. On to Ohio State news. Ohio State's star defensive end Chase Young didn't play Saturday against Maryland because of a possible issue in the NCAA. The school announced the news along with the team's status report and depth chart for the coming game. A statement says Young is being held out because of a possible NCAA issue from last year that the athletic department is looking into. The school did not elaborate. Young says it was a fallout from borrowing money from a family friend last year. In a statement posted on Young's Twitter account, the All-American acknowledged that he said, "I made a mistake by accepting the loan." He said he repaid it in full and is working with the university and the NCAA to get back on the field as soon as possible. News from Marietta football. Senior number 3, James Knox, returned a blocked field goal for 84 yards for a touchdown to put Marietta College in front as the Pioneers went to defeat the visiting Otterbein University by the score of 21-10 Saturday, November 9th in the afternoon at Don Jones Stadium. The Pioneers improved to 5-4 overall and 4-4 in the Ohio Athletic Conference. Otterbein slips to 2-7 on the season and 2-6 in the OAC. Marietta will return to the field November 16th when they host the number 1 ranked Mount Union University on Senior Day. Kickoff is scheduled for 1:30 p.m. News in the world of basketball. Kemba Walker was a winner in his return to Charlotte. Walker missed his first 6 shots before finishing with 14 points and 6 assists in the Boston Celtics' 6th straight win, 108-87 over the Hornets. He received a rousing 1-minute standing ovation from the home crowd after the Hornets showed a highlight tribute on the video board that left the point guard in tears. The 3-time All-Star played 8 NBA seasons in Charlotte and is the franchise's all-time leading scorer. Jason Tatum scored 23 points to help the Celtics stay unbeaten since their opening night loss at Philadelphia. Gordon Hayward added 20 points and 10 rebounds for the Celtics, who scored 17 points off 21 Charlotte turnovers. And that's all I have for sports. Back to the people at the desk.
Thanks, Roscoe. And now joining us here at the desk is going to be Landon Santini with a last look at the weather. So, Landon, give us the deets.
Okay, the brief recap. We've already had a rather cold start to the week with some of the snow outside. I think it started melting a little bit when the sunshine came out as I came in this morning. And we're going to have a cold week for the majority of it. But then as we start creeping into the weekend, as early as early Thursday evening going on into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's going to gradually start warming up, and we're getting warmer temperatures in the low 50s. And that's still pretty cold, so it's only marginally warm. But the fact that we've gotten our first official snowfall of the season and that it's stuck, I think that's safe to say that the stores are not the only areas that are being affected by the increasingly early holiday shopping seasons. I mean, we haven't even had Thanksgiving yet.
I don't doubt it. But that's all for us today, for today's broadcast. For all of us here at WCMO TV, thank you for watching. We'll hope you join us Tuesday and Thursday at 12:30 and 6:30 for WCMO Newscast, News Center 15, Marietta College Broadcasting. See you next time.